That was the moment that I changed my whole life. It was the moment I decided maybe I do deserve better than the life that I have been handing myself.
For you to go deep enough into it, it takes such a strength. I hope that you're really proud of yourself, because I'm really proud of the story that you've been able to push through and come out the other end and share this.
If I don't have boundaries, how the fuck am I going to share with other people how to have boundaries?
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Successful Stylist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ambrosia Carey. We have a special guest with us today, and this is going to be something that is hitting a lot of those buzzwords right now. We talk a lot about boundaries and ditching that burnout and helping stylists. But today we actually have somebody who has dealt with all of this and more. And so just a plethora of, I don't even know if I could say all the accolades, but we're talking to Sarai Speer this morning, otherwise known as a Platinum Giraffe on Instagram. And that's actually how I think I met her to begin with, but also, head of Balanced Society, and just an incredible human business owner, has been through a lot of things, talks about healthy boundaries and ditching burnout and all the things, I think the icky things that we're dealing with in our industry today. So hello, Sarai. How are you this morning?
Hello, that was a hell of an intro, friend. You made me feel real good.
Well, you are that, all that in a bag of chips. I mean, I haven't said that for so long, but you really are. And I like the fact that we have never really hung out face to face. I've seen you in passing. I've seen you at shows. Like, I think we've even been in the same room together, but it's so weird that like we haven't been face to face, but you are one of those people that I feel like I've known you for so long. And so I just love that you come across. So I don't even know another word for authentic, because I feel like that's an overabused word, but you are that. So I can't wait to hear your journey and what you've been through in your career. You've shared so openly about your process, and it's admirable. I love it. I want to hear more about it. So maybe we could just start there. Like, if you want to tell everyone, how did this whole journey start for you as a hairstylist and get you to where you are today?
Oh, all right, buckle up. No. So
Here we go. Fast news.
Yeah, exactly. Grab some popcorn, take a little pee break here. No. So I went to college, couldn't figure out what the fuck I wanted to do. Like, I was sort of floating. I tried this, I tried that, but I'd always loved hair. Like, loved doing fun shit with my hair. But like, up until I was 17, I had hair down in my ass. And my parents, not that they wouldn't let me cut it, but like, we couldn't do cool shit. And so I remember the day before my senior pictures, I like grew some cojones. I messaged my mom's hairstylist and I got an appointment. And I went in and I was like, chop it off, Steve, chop it off. I want it short. And he was like, does your mom know? And I was like, no, but she'll find out when I get home. So I chopped 18 inches off of my hair.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was like the most liberating, freeing experience. And I was like, fuck yes, this is amazing. And so I went from like, Amish long to like, I felt like a damn Kardashian. I was like, what's up? You can't tell me shit. So from that moment forward, I started experimenting with hair, and I loved how I could sort of transform as a person. Like, I could feel like, crappy about my whole life. And then I'd go in, I'd see my hairstylist and I'm like, bitch, you can't tell me shit. Like, I look good. I feel good. And so I reached this like weird pivotal moment in my life at the age of 24, where I was like, what do I want to do? Like, what the shit am I going to do with my life? And so I had, this is so silly looking back. I literally thought I had two choices in life. Here are your two paths, Sarai. You could do real estate or you could do hair. I don't know where the real estate came from. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm completely covered in tattoos. I have neck tattoos. I did not have any of those when I thought about going into real estate. So I was like, let's give it a shot. Let's go. Because if all else fails, I hate it. At least I know how to do my hair. So I went to beauty school, and first day I walked in and I was like deer in headlights. Everyone was in black. They had cool hair. Everybody seemed so cool. And I was like, yes, bitch, these are my people. Here we are. And so I fell in love instantly. I mean, of course, I was scared to death, just like everybody else. I never held a pair of shears. I didn't know how to palm it. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was all in. And so I fell in love and I graduated. Part of my story is a story of addiction. And I have been an addict of some sort of another since I was 14 years old. And I think I've always had these like addictive tendencies, but they really showed up when I was 14. And so when I went to beauty school, I was dealing with what I did not recognize at the time was alcoholism. I thought it was, I just love to have fun and be a partier. Um, so I drank through beauty school. I also at the time was dealing with a 10-year-old eating disorder, anorexia and bulimia. And so we've got this cool hairstylist life. We've got the beginnings of alcohol and addiction, and we're dealing with an eating disorder. And so it was kind of the perfect storm for me. And I wish I could tell you like, oh, I got my shit together 6 months after I graduated. I did not get my shit together until 12 years after I graduated, complete transparency. And I'm 43 years old and I'm still getting my shit together. Okay. So when I graduated from beauty school, I kind of fell into this salon that the owner was, she was tattooed, her husband was a tattoo artist, and we just had this like cool chemistry, but she ended up having a substance abuse problem. And so 6 months after I graduated, I was working this salon and I was booth rent. And then the option kind of came available that myself and the stylist there were going to lose our jobs, or myself and another stylist could become business partners and buy it. Now, mind you, I'm 25 fucking years old. I've never taken a business class. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I was like, it can't be that hard to run a salon. You just buy color.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Pretty
And
much sums it up. Sums it up. Yeah.
And every salon owner out there is like, oh, Jesus, yes. So, it's not easy and I was not cut out for it, but I tried. I really tried. I tried for a couple years and I poured my heart and soul into it. I created a really cool, unusual, different space. And my business partner at the time was a big partier. And I would always see her having so much fun. And I started to resent her, if I'm being honest, because I was like, you go out, you get fucked up all the time, you have all this fun. And then I get stuck, trying to do the marketing, paying the taxes and the payroll and all this shit. And so I started to build resentment, and we ended up going out one night. I was 27 years old and we were at her place getting ready and drinking, and the drugs come out. And I'd never been around drugs in my life, never. And in this very moment, I thought it would be a great idea to try some drugs. And that moment changed the course of my entire life. I have addictive tendencies. And at 27 years old, I tried cocaine for the very first time. The next 3 years are a blur of me going from Coke and binge drinking to Coke wasn't enough. I became a meth addict. I became a junkie. And by 30 years old, I had been forced out of my own salon. I had my car repossessed. I had been evicted from my loft. I had no money, and I became homeless in a matter of 3 years. And to come back from that is not easy. And I was so fortunate to meet an incredible man. He is my husband now. And when I first met him, I met him through a friend, and I was like, oh, hey, you're a drug dealer. That's cool because I'm a druggie. I like drugs. You're a drug dealer. Let's hang out. Well, I kind of ended up liking this guy, and like shit got serious, and he's a good dude. Like he's not like anybody I've ever met in my whole life. And so things got serious. We hung out for a year, and then I was like, fuck, I'm starting to have feelings for this guy. And a couple months later, he ended up proposing to me. And I knew my life was a mess. Like I knew it and I wanted out, but I just kind of didn't know how. And so when he proposed to me, I was like, yes, like, let's get married. I was like, but here's the thing, like you got to get out of the game. You got to stop this shit. And he was like, well, if I get out of the game, like you got to stop this shit. And I'm like, yeah, I got this. Spoiler alert, I did not got this. So for the next couple of years, he did get out of the game. He's an incredible chef, an incredible human, and he really helped me kind of become who I am and really tap into my power. So I ended up lying to him for years, and I was doing drugs behind his back, and I was drinking at work every day. And I got to the point where I was blacking out. And the moment that changed the course of my entire life was March 6th, 2016. So 2 days before that, I got blackout drunk at work. Now, mind you, I have sharp scissors. I'm doing hair. Okay. And this is something I'm not proud of, but I got blackout drunk at work. I said some shit. I don't know what I did. And I got a message the next day from the salon owner, who is a lovely human. And she said, Sarai, I need to meet with you Monday morning at 9 o'clock in the salon. She said, but in the meantime, I need you to think about what this career means to you, what your family means to you, what your salon family means to you. And I'll see you Monday morning. And so I'd been fired from jobs before. I drank on jobs before. I specifically chose salons that I could party and do drugs at, and it was acceptable. And so I'm thinking, whatever, she's going to can me just like they all fucking do. Whatever. I'll pack my shit. I'll leave. I'll find another place. But there was this tiny thing inside of me, this little voice that said, but I don't want to do that anymore. I didn't know how to feel about that. I've lived my life up until this point. I was 35 years old. Been an addict since I was 14 years old. So I've lived 2 decades as an addict. That's what I've known. And so Monday morning, I walk in at 9 a.m. And before I even get in the door, she looks at me dead in my soul, not just in my eyeballs. She was in my soul. And she said, what the fuck is going on with you? And there was a moment of, I'm going to puke. I want to run away. And there was the moment of just fucking tell her, Sarai. And so I just opened my mouth and I said, I think I have a drinking problem. I can't stop drinking and I need help. And I assumed that she would say, pack up your shit, get the fuck out of here. And she looked at me and she came over to me and she hugged me and she said, then let's get you some help. And that was the moment that I changed my whole life. It was the moment I decided maybe I do deserve better than the life that I have been handing myself, than the lies I've been telling myself. So I went to treatment, or I went to AA meetings. I went to NA meetings. I was honest with myself. I submitted to random breathalyzers at work, at home. I told my husband everything that was going on. And it changed me. It changed my life. And I think that was really the beginning of my healing journey. But I wasn't really truly honest with myself and everybody. Yes, I stopped drinking. Yes, I stopped using drugs. But when you take away things and you don't deal with the root cause, the other things come up loud and clear. And so my eating disorder from when I was 14 years old started to rear its ugly head throughout the next couple of years of my sobriety. And February of last year, of 2023, I finally decided I could not do it anymore. It was killing me physically. It was killing me mentally. And I had tried on my own and I couldn't do it. So I made the decision to go to treatment, and I made the decision to go public on social media about my struggles and going to treatment. And this last year has been a mess of my whole life and healing and all of the root causes of the addiction and the self-esteem issues and the not feeling good enough. And just in the last couple weeks, I feel like the veil has been lifted. I feel like the fog is gone. I feel like I finally remember who the fuck I am. And I am very much go fuck yourself, but I am also very much love and light and healing and all of those things. And I'm realizing I am yin and yang, and I am all of those things. And I have been put here on this planet to share vulnerably, to share honestly, to share the good shit, to share the bad shit. And by me sharing, I give other people permission to live, to exist, to share their story.
Wow, that's super powerful. I knew portions of this because you've shared it so openly, but I just didn't realize the fact that you were able to juggle and balance having a career that you were nourishing and growing while you were battling all of this stuff. I mean, I think it's pretty remarkable. And I know that even though you're pushing through that and this is part of your story and this is how you're coming out the other end and you're sharing it with people to help others, I think there's something to be said about being strong enough to know that you're capable of more than what it is that was taking over you. And for you to go deep enough into it, it takes such a strength. So I hope that you're really proud of yourself, because I'm really proud of this story that you've been able to push through and come out the other end and share this. Because most people, I think that they would keep it at like a dirty little secret. And so I'm amazed by this. Like, I mean, my gosh, I was going to ask you what your biggest challenge is, but I think we could bypass that question. Holy crap. My gosh, I have no room to complain ever again for the rest of my life. That's amazing, Sarai. Well, that's really cool. So I've been seeing not just you recovering from all of this and sharing this, but I've also been seeing how you are creating like this whole space in your world, in your community, and opening this up. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about that, because you've started to learn more about boundaries and stuff like that. So I'm curious, like, what came up for you to realize, like, holy crap, I need to place better boundaries?
Oh, a lot. And I love this question so much. So during my sobriety, the last 8 years, the last couple, I've been on tour. I teach around the country. I teach around the world. So I've got that. I've got my behind the chair business. And then during COVID, we all shut down and I thought pivot. I've got to do something. And so I created what was then at the time called Blonding Crew, because it was all my blonding shit. Like I was like, I'm going to brain dump all my shit for you to just binge watch. And it started as blonding and science and chemistry. And as I've grown, my community has grown and shifted and changed. And it's now called the Balanced Stylist Society. And it is a place where we prioritize our mental health, because I burnt out twice in my career. This last round, I'm literally just coming out of a 1.5 year spell of burnout. I mean, I was still functional, I was still operational. So we prioritize our mental health. We talk about shit that may be taboo, that people are uncomfortable talking about. Like I have a mental health board in there. And I say, listen, none of us are licensed therapists, but if you need support, put your shit here and we'll support you. I learned that I had to have boundaries when I burnt out. And it was from touring. It was from not taking care of myself. It was from giving so much to everybody else, including my community, Balanced Stylist Society. And I haven't talked about this. So I let Balanced Stylist Society suck the life out of me, because I thought I had to be on for everybody. I thought I had to produce fucking 4 tutorials a week and go on lives. And I didn't realize until recently how much I had let those boundaries go. I was giving because I thought if I give so much of myself, people won't leave me. And I'm still healing these not good enough wounds. And I thought if I just give and I give and I give, people will stick around. They won't leave me. They'll love me. And what I'm coming to realize is, first of all, less is more sometimes. But if I don't have boundaries, how the fuck am I going to share with other people how to have boundaries? How am I going to have a community that's called balance when meanwhile I'm in the background crying my eyes out because I am giving so much and I have no one filling my cup and I'm not allowing myself to receive and I'm not doing that self-care. So I had a love-hate relationship with Balanced Stylist Society for a few months, and I've been able to completely transform that now that I'm like, nope, here are my boundaries. Here's what I offer. If it resonates with you, excellent. And if it doesn't, okay. I'm not chasing anymore, because chasing got me sick on so many levels. Chasing got me burnt out. Chasing got me exhausted. And it's hard when you hear it from the people who know you best that your boundaries suck.
Right.
When you have those people in your life who will call you on your bullshit, and one of my girlfriends did that, and she gets hives. She literally got hives, and she was like starting to hyperventilate because she needed me to hear that the pace I was keeping, the things I was doing were going to drive me crazy.
Wow.
And she could not be part of it. She could not watch it. Like, what kind of fucking human does that? Like and shout out to Tabitha for having my back, for getting uncomfortable and telling me like, bitch, you can't keep fucking doing this.
Yeah.
So I've learned that boundaries can have a negative connotation. When I grew up, I was supposed to make everybody feel so important, and like there was nothing going on behind the scenes. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, like make everybody feel seen and heard and validated. And you take care of everybody else, Sarai. Like you're not even in the equation. You take care of everybody else. And so I didn't realize how much that had played into my life, into even my clients and my schedule. I was working at one point, I became an absolute workaholic. I've talked about this. I was working 80, 90 fucking hours a week behind the chair. I was like, come in at 6, I will work till 10 p.m. And I did that 7 days a week. And then I went on tour, like obviously unresolved issues that I have worked through. But my lack of boundaries was slowly killing me spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, all of it. And it took somebody saying, wake the fuck up, Sarai. I knew it. I couldn't come to it myself. And so the importance of self-care. I sat with a therapist for 2 years and I stared every fucking Wednesday at the sign above her head that said, self-care isn't selfish. And at one point I looked at her and I said, I just need to tell you that this sign makes me want to fucking punch something because I think it's fucking stupid. It's stupid. And I don't have time for self-care. And I don't have time for girls' trips and bubble baths and beach vacations. And she's like, oh, let's dive into this. I'm like, let's not. But we did. And I realized the importance of self-care and what boundaries look different for everybody. Like my boundaries are not your boundaries, and my self-care is not your self-care. And how we communicate those boundaries is not the same. So the importance of having boundaries and knowing that they are for you. And sometimes your boundaries are going to piss people off, and they're going to be triggered, and they're going to gaslight you and all of those things. But at the end of the day, what I've learned more than anything, we are guaranteed to wake up with one person for the rest of our lives. One person. And it's not your partner. It's not your dogs. It's not your children. It's you.
Yeah.
And if you do not prioritize yourself, your self-care, your boundaries, your mental, physical well-being, spiritual well-being, that's gross. That's a gross way to go through life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfulfilling. So putting boundaries up isn't easy.
Yeah, it's a word we hear a lot. I think boundaries is it's almost like a buzzword in a way, but there's a lot of depth that goes into that. So you are somebody who not just walked through life and felt the repercussions of not having boundaries, and boundaries maybe that you need to place to protect yourself, but it sounds to me like you had to really work through the process on how to actually build those healthy boundaries. So I guess if you were to like sum it up in like a couple of tips for people who are listening, who maybe they don't actually realize that they haven't really worked through their boundaries yet. They say the words, but they don't actually do the actions. What sort of things did you start to do to really implement these building blocks around yourself to protect you?
The first thing is it's self-awareness. And it's so easy to say, it is one of the hardest things to do, because I used to think I was so self-aware. I was like, yeah, I know I'm quirky. I've got this. I'm blah, blah, blah. But then when I went to treatment and I started digging into shit and like really, really digging into, why is this your pattern? I was like, oh my God, I actually am not self-aware. I am actually not emotionally healthy or intelligent. I've developed these crazy coping mechanisms, including having no boundaries and workaholism and every addiction under the sun. Because when we start to become self-aware, we have to, who are we? What am I comfortable with? What makes me uncomfortable? And then if I am uncomfortable, why? And why can I not voice this? And a lot of times, like, listen, we all have experiences as children, as adults that stick with us. Um, and it could be something that you tell somebody and they're like, so fucking what? So she made fun of you and pulled your pigtails in second grade. But like that is rooted in who we are. And so by becoming self-aware, it's asking ourselves, like, I like to do the 7 layers of why. So it's like, why am I triggered by this? Well, I'm triggered by this because it makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, why does it make me feel uncomfortable? And continuing to 7 layers of why. And what I found, especially for me, is anger is my first reaction. Because as a child, I was told you could be angry on the sports field, anger gets attention. And so I'm like, angry. What's under the surface is I'm scared. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm lonely, I'm all of these things. And so when I would say, Sarai, why are you explosively angry about somebody making a comment about your fucking nose? Well, it makes me feel invalidated. Well, why does it make you feel invalidated? Well, because, and just kind of going deeper. So the first thing I think is self-awareness and writing things down, like what you'll put up with, what you won't, where you feel like you need help, you need support. Like I know that I can't do certain things in my business because I'm emotionally tied to them. So I have a virtual assistant who helps me with that. So being aware of those triggers, and it took me a long time to figure out, my triggers and things and all, they're still going to come up even for the rest of our lives. We're going to be triggered by shit, but being self-aware and understanding that first. And the next thing I would say is clear communication. And this is a hard thing for a lot of people because a boundary can seem intimidating. It can seem like, oh, fuck you, I'm being rude, your needs don't matter, when actually it's a beautiful self-protection piece. So you do not have to be a dick when you talk about your boundaries. And especially for women, we're taught if we're loud, if we know what we want, if we're demanding, we're a bitch, we're bossy, we're all of these things.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm actually okay if somebody calls me a bitch. I'm like, whatever. Congratulations. You used a word that was supposed to hurt me and it empowers me. Good on you. But when we are ready and able to communicate our boundaries, it's using I statements instead of you. And it's the same kind of when you're having a conversation and there may need to be a conflict resolution, right? It's, I feel this way. And what I took from this conversation was X, Y, and Z. So assigning power to those I statements. And again, if you're struggling with boundaries, like let's say you need to have a conversation with a client and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. Listen, put it into Chat GPT, put it into Gemini, which is Google's AI. And if you haven't used it, it's dope. Please start using it. I just say, listen, the tone is compassionate and empowering, yet I need to protect my boundaries. Help me come up with an email to send or a text message. Like we don't have to do it all. We can also outsource things. So clear communication is really important. And know that when you first start putting in boundaries, people are going to go, oh my God, you're such a bitch. That doesn't work for me. Oh, fuck you. They're going to have these visceral and emotional responses because they're used to you in a certain version. They're not used to you laying down the law or putting up boundaries or enforcing that cancellation policy or charging that late fee.
Yeah,
so
totally.
like anything, nobody was good at cutting a fucking A-line bob on day one of beauty school, correct? Correct.
Absolutely.
Nobody was good at balayage, their very first balayage. My balayage looked like a calico kitten got put in a blender. Okay.
Yes.
So consistency. And you can even role play with your husband, your partner, your business partner, somebody like, hey, I just need to like say this and I need help growing my voice and my strength. So consistency will help you maintain boundaries. And the last piece, if I could offer, is self-care. And self-care is not bubble baths. It is not fucking girls' trips. For me, I have a deck of cards right next to me. And these are affirmations that I have written. And they are everywhere
That's cool.
in my house. This is self-care for me. If I find myself sitting at my desk creating whatever it is, a free resource or a course, and I'm like, oh my God, Sarai, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. You need more. I pull this out and I'm like, I am grateful for the abundance of love and support in my life. That is my self-care. My self-care is going to yoga. It is moving. It is meditating. It is these small moments in time that are only for me. They're just for me. They're painting. They're taking my dogs on a walk. They're creating something and not showing a single fucking soul, not posting about it on social media. That's my self-care. And so it's going to look different for everybody. And you have to figure out what lights you up. Like what makes you feel good. If you had a day and you could do anything in the world, like what would that look like? That's part of your self-care. So if you can't take a trip to Tahiti, if you know that you like being alone and you like curling up in front of the fireplace, or you like having a blanket and a fucking Harry Potter marathon, which is one of my favorite things to do, that's self-care. And allowing yourself the permission and knowing that I think the saying is like, you can't pour from an empty cup, but like I say fill your cup for you.
That's good.
Not for other people. And when you fill your cup, you will not be able to help it from overflowing. It just will. It emanates from you. And so don't fill your cup for other people. Fill your cup for yourself.
Oh, that's such a good one. I just like the visual, even thinking about the fact that you're not relying on anybody to fill your cup for you. You fill your own cup. That's a really good. I mean, all the tips that you gave, I will say spot on, because I think this is something that just, it's human condition. A lot of us are divinely created to operate this way. We seek affirmation of other people. We want to fit in. We want to be liked. We want to be included. And so a lot of it too is even like cultural narratives, being a woman even. So I feel like all the things that you hit on are so relevant to the voices of so many other females in our industry. And I'm not saying it's not something that men deal with, but I only know my own perspective as being a woman and talking to women, especially with our industry being 93% women. So I love that you're even just talking about it. So I really enjoyed this conversation. I wish that we could keep going, because I even have I think the more you unpack, the more questions are the things I want to talk about. I wish I had more time with you. So that just means I have to have you back on again. What do you know?
Yay. That's what I was hoping for.
Yes. So if you could just share with everyone, where can they find you?
Hell yes. I would love to come back. So you can find me on Instagram, at the Platinum Giraffe, and pretty much everything I do the link is in the bio, whether it's my free resources. I've got imposter syndrome guidebooks. I've got shadow work journals. I'm getting ready to go on tour. I've got the Balanced Stylist Society. So just go to platinumgiraffe.com or on Instagram, the Platinum Giraffe.
Thank you so much. I'll have you guys back soon. Or wait, I said that wrong. Sarai, I'll have you back soon. And everyone, just know that you're not alone in this journey, okay? We are here for you each step of the way. So I just want to encourage you to dream big, set goals, and take action on it. And I'll see you guys soon.